the recording. Okay. So good morning all. Welcome Avadhut sir. So introducing Avadhut sir in a brief is really a big challenge because I know him personally as well, and I know his expertise and all these things. So introducing him with a short notice and all these things is really big challenge. But as a formality of the session, I have to do this. So currently, Avadhut Kulkarni sir is working as a project manager, Scrum Master in Pfizer Serve India Private Limited. So he has a vast experience as an analyst programmer also, project lead also, and a principal engineer, project manager. Sir has experience with all these different posts also. From almost more than 15 years, he is working in IT industries. So he is expert in programming database automation tools also, like SQL, PLSQL, OOPS. These are very normal. He already expert in that. But in addition to this, SQL Server, Selenium, QTP, and Marvin, these kind of technology also he is master in. He has worked with different kind of defect tracking tools like Jira and Salesforce, project management tools like Microsoft Project, Salesforce, SharePoint, MS Excel, MS PowerPoint, customized templates for status reports. So you can see what else you want for a career development. So I think Avadhut sir is the best option for the students to guide you. And today he is going to share his expertise specifically in PHP and database connectivity of PHP with SQL Server, which is very much important for part of your curriculum, as well as from academic project point of view, it is very important. So thank you, Avadhut sir, for accepting our invitation, and you are here with us to share your knowledge and expertise with our students. So welcome, sir, and I'll request you to start the session.
Thank you, Swati ma'am. So really excited to be here. Anytime if you feel like okay, I'm not audible, or maybe you are not following with me, just ping me or chat me, because I think we have almost 63 students. So yes, maybe in between we have some query sessions where you can open up and discuss, because I need to be an interactive session throughout, and we'll see how we can proceed based on how you can understand. So before proceeding, I just try to share my screen so that
I think, Avadhut sir, there are little bit background voices from your side,
let me.
sort of. And meanwhile, I'll ask all students, be ready with your pen, pencil, paper,
Yeah.
with your laptops. So simultaneously, if you want to do some practicals or hands-on, you can have immediate things to
Right.
do.
So now it's better relatively to the earlier one. Okay, and just let me know you can able to see presentation.
Yes, it's very much visible.
Okay. So again, thanks, Swati ma'am, for a brief introduction. So guys, in today's session, because I've gone through your curriculum, so I'm assuming that you have a quite understanding about the HTML primarily, even PHP for that matter, the database, like how the things will work when we have like a client, that is the front end and back end infrastructure. The front end is something we can say HTML or the PHP, where we are writing the code through the graphical user interface, I can say. and the backend is something, the SQL Server, it may be Oracle, it may be DB2. So there are a number of databases available in the market. So considering current scope, we are more focusing about HTML plus PHP combination with the database as MySQL. So you can extend that to any other databases, and primarily we'll target here how we can able to connect to the database, and then we'll do the DML operations, right? So you hope you are all aware about a data manipulation language like insert, update, delete, how we can do that. So primarily some of the revisions here. So revisions is like based on what you learn so far. So please feel free to let me know, because now I'm not able to see the screen. Give me a minute. Okay, so generally in the programming, we call as a keywords, right? Okay, and apology for this the dumb presentation, because I prepared last night because I thought I should have some checkpoints so that I will not miss anything to discuss with you all. And again, it's not a lecture; it's a open discussion where I want to share my experience and you know how we can develop a simple or a complex site later on. So I will just try to guide you because I'm don't have much time, considering that okay, you need to build a scratch web-based application, a robust application within this session. But certainly, if we need any further sessions, we'll cover up into that. But before moving ahead, we need to know some of the factors of a programming. So keyword, okay, keywords are nothing but what it's predefined. I would say predefined variables, not actually the variable, but these are something. Uh, हम उसको ये बोल सकते हैं कि भाई these are the keywords you cannot use for any variable declaration, constant declaration, anything. So those are the keywords. Say for example, insert into table. So insert is a keyword, select is a keyword, update is a keyword, for example. Or in that matter, for example, in case of our data types like integer, float, character, string. So these are some predefined words for the language, for that matter. If it's a front end, it's a back end. Those are the words we cannot use for our programming. So considering maybe declaration of a variable, declaration of a constant, for that matter, or even for that matter for declaring a function or a procedure. Then reserved words is like just to extension of that. Okay, these can be like for example, pi is a constant, so that is a universal fixed. So tomorrow, if you can use that as a constant, then it's a constant for across any language, any for any damn thing. So those kind of called as, we can call as a reverse reserve word. Sorry. Now, as we touch base upon the earlier one, the constants, again, these are again the predefined ones. I think you maybe worked earlier with either C or C++, or for that matter any .NET or Java, that classes. Maybe we'll try to touch base with the classes. Depends on how we can write a PHP program. But again, the classes is a common set of characteristics where we have a common attribute. So for example, a student as a class. So for that student, maybe we need a roll number, name, address, birth date, maybe class where he or she is studying. So all these attributes considered to be a student as a class. So all common parameters, attributes comes under the one umbrella, and we'll call that as a class. Okay, in the programming language, we can extend that class for our purpose, like maybe it's for a BBA class or for the BCA second year class. Then we'll use these common parameters in the one group, which is called as a class. Again, the function procedure, I think these are very common one, where if we want to write a particular code in a similar fashion, say for example, I need to print, say maybe, or maybe I need to calculate, say maybe Fibonacci series for that matter, or maybe I will say calculate for maybe addition of 10 numbers or multiplication of these 3 numbers. So I will create a function, will have 3 parameters, and that calculates this the calculation, and it returns the value. So function and procedure, which exactly the same. The only difference is function always return a single value. Just to be very sure, it's written only a single value always, even though you have a multi parameter function, but it always returns single value, where the procedure never returns a value. It will just simply calculate and gives you the result. Then variable, it's a variable, right? So based on the decision of a program, it change the values of that particular part, so it's called as a variable. Data types, you are well aware. So every programming, I will not say every programming, but every database, anything where whichever the language, whether it's HTML, it's PHP, it's a .NET, it's a JavaScript, any language you see, there are some data types defined. So data types means what kind of data you are holding for that variable or for that constant. So whatever the manipulation you want to do, then it's like a numeric, okay, or it's maybe a float, it may be character cascading if you want to do. So all these can be help, or basically the variable based on the type of the data, whether it's integer or it's a character. Based on that, it determines that variable holds that kind of a data. So it's called as a data type. Now front end and back end, maybe we can have more look into this for today's session. Like, okay, front end and back end. So front end is something where we are able to see route right now. So for example, it may be a website, it may be your phone, Android phone, so where you can see the pages, right? So for example, if I say here, type google.com. So google.com is what? Is nothing but your front end. So front end where the user is allowed to interact with the system. So for example, in that matter, so you have like maybe a Google account or Facebook account for that matter, or Instagram. So all those are nothing but the front ends where we are designing with the different set of programming language, whether it's HTML, it's PHP, it's ASP.NET, it's a C#.NET for that matter. But we can able to interact with the user via the front end, and where the back end is something where you are storing the data, you are hiding information from the customers. So for example, if you so I have created a account in the Gmail. So for that I have a screen, right? The initial screen where I'm putting my name, username, password, date of birth. So some information which helps me to create my account into the Gmail. So that once you submit, then that information will dump into the somewhere into the database. So we can call that as the backend. So backend is always hold, or basically which is always interact with the front end. So let me check. I have any slide for that. Okay. So maybe something like that, right? So it's basically maybe just to extend to this the front end back end. So usually what the website, so any website for that matter, it's like I'm just taking an example of Google here. So for example, me or you, we call as a client, right? Or the users who are interacting with the system. So if suppose say Google, say if I type maybe let me know who is Sachin Tendulkar, for example, or who is MS Dhoni. So once you click and enter, it will search for you, right? So that client request is through the front end, we pass to the web service. So again, maybe Apache this is one of the web service. So web service means what? There is a service who can help you to pass your front-end values to the backend. So whether it's uh, by any ways, right? So there are different web services available. So I'm just not trying. So I'm just trying to give a glimpse of generally the front end, back end, or the website, because nowadays that's the uh, more interest, or I think you are also foresee here is like, okay, instead of a standalone client server environment, right? So client server means there is a one person who is interacting with the database via the website. So the Google is a website, or maybe for that matter, the Bharti Vidyapit site, right? So suppose tomorrow I want to take an admission, I need to fill a form, right, with some details. So this is nothing but the website for that school or college for that matter, and then that information has to be stored. So client request is something where the user who is interacting with the system, and once the data will get received by the web server, so the web services, the server returns the value to the front end. So that means if I search, maybe for example, say google.com, and I say Sachin Tendulkar, for example, for that matter, if I say enter, the information is displayed here. So it gives you the detail about who is that, the Wikipedia and everything. So this information is already stored by Google in their databases as a backend, and once we'll set this information to them, they will retrieve in terms of I would say the acknowledgement for that. So here the interesting part is, now you see this is nothing but the front end, the GUI, right? So if I say right click and say view page source, right? So I see, okay, there is something written. So this is nothing but it's a HTML or it's a PHP. So in which language this site is developed, the source code of this is available here. So if you see here, you will see, so whenever you search, you will get some kind of concatenation. So if you see here google.com, Sachin Tendulkar, ampersand, blah, blah, blah. So this way it generates the query. So simple in terms, the select query. So this is the input box, for example. Whatever you type, it will concatenate in terms of a string as a parameter to the database server via web services. Okay, so you guys with me? Um, so if you have any questions, please maybe raise your hands, or so I'm just trying to give you the context, right? So maybe most of you are all aware. It may be repeating for you, but it just to have a more understanding on that. So once we type anything in the search window, and if I press enter, it will concatenate something, and this is nothing but what, in a very layman term, it's a select statement. So whatever is the database associated with this site, it will fire or execute that query. Say select, say maybe find Sachin Tendulkar's name from the database with say name, address, blah blah blah, and then that will fetch the results, gives me as a page here. So in a standalone system, we are creating, say maybe for example, Visual Basic as an example. So we have, again, there is also front end and back end. We are also there writing the same stuff like this, but this is maybe more like a standalone. So that means the application server or the application and the database server reside into the same environment. So that's standalone. But here, these are the websites. So where we need to register our site, then the respective authority gives us some space into that global area, and then you can search from that area, right? So just to have maybe cut it out short, like, okay, this is the way any website the APIs or to the web service, it will interact with the database and then after receiving that information, server returns the value as a front end. Okay. So hope till part everyone is clear. Any doubt from anyone? Okay, sounds good. So as you're aware, or maybe you have already started using HTML for that matter, or even PHP. So I've created one slide for that. Okay, so are you guys aware about exam, the tool? Swati ma'am, is there aware about this, or anyone from the team? Okay. Um, so you are, or maybe you can put in the chat window for me, maybe one of you, like, okay, do you know about uh, this tool, for example, right? Or I would say it's a very famous for PHP. Okay, fine. Very good. So I'm assuming that you have already installed this because this is needed at least for today's session. So what this exam is nothing but it's a PHP development environment. So like for example, in case of Visual Basic, you are using the front end, right? Or in for any that matter. So this is a framework available for which we can easily start developing our PHP application. So basically, I've already installed. I will show you that. And then second one is the editors. Like for example, we have Notepad, Notepad Plus, Edit Plus. There are a couple of editors, but I found either use Sublime Text, but still I have to prefer this Visual Studio Code Editor because this is well embedded with the syntaxes. So whenever you want to type, say for example, I show you this one. This is nothing but the visual. I will share the link for this, how to download and everything. But this is nothing but whenever say you go to anything. So if suppose I want to type here, so for example, say exclamation mark, and if I say shift enter for that matter, so it will gives me the ready-made code for this. So I'm not written anything for this. So the by default header part, or I would say the skeleton of the HTML, it gives me popped up. Or it gives us the information, right? So for example, if you want, for example, anything, any keyword, any variable you are using. So it's very helpful while writing the coding. So for that matter, you can use any editor, but this helps you primarily. Okay, so I think you all already started working with the PHP, but just thought to have a quick catch up. So PHP again, it's a general purpose, or it's specifically used for a web development. Um, then what is meant by PHP? It's basically initially known as personal homepage, right? So the person mentioned here, because okay, I'm taken this information from Google again, but the person has development for his personal use, and then decided, okay, this is a great way where we can, interact with the rest of the society. So then that started with developing and enhancing this web development tool. So basically, the advantage of PHP is it's free to download. It's open source kind of thing, and then we can practice for that. And again, PHP is an interpreter. So I think you are aware about interpreter, where where it will whenever you write, and if there is an error for that specific line, it holds or it stops. Um, so interpreter and the compiler, right? These are the two, I would say, the background. So every language, so for that matter, it's a Visual Basic. For that matter, for it's a COBOL, anything which will have either an interpreter or a compiler. So compiler, which what say if suppose you have a 10 lines of program, and you suppose you write in the COBOL, you might not, but it gives you error for all the 10 lines. But in case of interpreter, no, once you have maybe on the second or third line and it hits the error, it will stop. So basically, this is a quick overview of PHP we use for building websites, graphical application, websites, anything, right? Okay, fantastic. So, and examples, maybe we can see here how we can write code into the PHP. What else in the PPT? I just have a quick look so that, okay, that's fine. Okay. So basically, as I'm aware, you've already started working with the PHP. So you all are aware about how declaring a variables, for example, or for that matter, declaring a variables, then defining constants for that matter, the looping statements, do while, conditional statements. So I think the basic stuff you guys have well aware, right? So considering that, I will move forward. So basically, as I mentioned here, okay. Just give me a minute. I just take a sip of water. So, okay. So any questions so far? Maybe with, for anyone? Yes, Akash, please go ahead. You can unmute and you can speak. You're not able to unmute yourself. Yes, Akash, can you hear me?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
The settings are made that most students can't unmute themselves. Should I change the setting?
Yeah. Please, ma'am, do that, and request all students to mute yourself always. And as Akash rightly do, okay. In any time you have any question, please raise your hand so that, and then you can raise your question. Yeah, ma'am, please do the needful.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Yes, Akash, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sir, I was just saying that we were not able to see a PHP codes because it was in a very small font and we were not able to see. Can you, sir, increase the font, please?
Yeah. So you mean to say the code?
Yes, sir. So
No,
actually
no.
the font was
Okay.
small.
So I've not started writing any code into the PHP at this moment. So I've just
No,
give you some of the overview about the PHP, right? So
so you were showing us the XAMPP server actually, and that was actually not clearly visible due to the small font. And
okay.
can you please?
So now this is visible. Still, it's showing you.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. Yeah, fine. So certainly, so if unfortunately, if you are not able to see any code, what maybe post this session, I will try to create some sample files. Say, for example, the database connection, or for that matter, for some insert or update, small programs, and then maybe I will share across with you with Swati ma'am, and then maybe they will share with you. Because again, the purpose of today's session is you need to understand the overview of PHP and how it connects with the database. So certainly I will provide you some sort of assignments, and if needed, we'll have some follow-up sessions later on as well. But considering the time and the overall syllabus, right? So I can't cover everything in this 1 or 2 hours of session, but I will try uh, to target primarily on the database connectivity for today's session. Okay, so again, XAMPP is nothing but the predefined database. That's the MySQL here. Just this will connect to the MySQL. Sorry, this is not a MySQL. So this is basically um, I would say backbone of the PHP. So here, if you see the Apache, the server, the service, I will say. So if you say maybe I will stop, then I will not able to run any PHP program on the site, right? So I need to start here, and again the MySQL is by default the backend for the PHP. So basically, XAMPP is again the open source. It will have an integration of PHP against the MySQL. So you all need to use this. So if you simply go to the Google and search for XAMPP, then based on your configurations of a laptop or PC, whether it's a 32-bit or 64-bit, based on that, you need to simply install, and it will gives you the same window that you are appearing here, right? So basically, this is needed for our PHP programming. And the second one, I've just showed you the editor, right? Um, just try to open in, sorry, just try to open in some bigger form. Okay, so this is nothing but again the Visual Studio editor. So maybe you already installed. So we are not using any Visual Studio feature here, but this is the pure editor which helps us for the programming, right? So these are the two prerequisites you need to start any PHP application. Okay, so maybe we can start. So again, one more question, like, okay, now you are already aware about uh, having, the simple form, right? So today morning I've just tried, so let's see, we can showcase with you or not. There are a couple of things open, but still I just try to showcase you the best one. Basically, just remove this as well. Okay, so I think you all are aware about, right, the local host. Okay, so okay, most importantly, so once you install this XAMPP, you have the folder structure, something like C:\XAMPP, right? So here we usually use this folder. So whenever you install your XAMPP, in that the next important folder is htd. So htdocs is the most important folder. So basically we are working with this folder structure henceforth. So here you want to create your own folders, files. It may be the PHP, it may be HTML. You can go ahead and do that. But this is the base location, and this is nothing but what? Our local host. Okay. So this local host. So for example, continue. So basically, I just created one sample form. Maybe I've just tried to showcase the code for you here. It's a simple login page. Just hide here. So is this visible? Because I have a full screen, so I'm not aware whether you can able to see or not. But basically, again, this is ready-made code available. So what I did here is like label, for example, login page, the username, and the password, right? So if you see it's little bit difficult, then maybe what I will tweak here, some of this is like, if I just remove this line, it's really not needed for me.
Hello, Avadhut
Yeah.
sir. Sorry to interrupt you, sir. Just can you please increase font size?
Okay, fine. I will try. Setting. For that matter, fine. So for that matter, maybe what I will try here. I've just tried copied here, and for the reference,
So you can zoom in also.
right? So I've just copied paste the code from there to here. Okay. So don't worry, don't need to write anything right away. Maybe you are aware, or if you are not aware, as I mentioned, maybe I will provide you some sample HTMLs and sample PHP files, which will have maybe a simple screen designing, simple insert, update, delete, DML manipulations. But you need to try to understand the concept here. So basically, this is by default the earlier one. Now here, whatever the screen which shows as in, for example, just scroll it down here so that I can parallelly. So this is nothing but the form, right? So we have started our coding from the form. Now method is post here, because whatever I typing here, so I will showcase you, or maybe for that matter, you can say we have a get functions, right? So whatever you have written in the under the username and the password, we can retrieve that information. So for example, the purpose is, say I want to build this small form. So please excuse me, this is not a good form, but if you want to enter, say, username and password, and you want to display in the screen itself, okay, what I've entered here. So for that, we have called as a post method and even the get method, by which whatever you have written in this form, so whenever I click on the login button here, then I simply want to display what I have entered under the username and password, I can fetch from that easily. So for that, the action, right? So if I click on the login button, what action I need to perform? So that I've written in the separate file. But we can write here itself in a single PHP file. You can write the HTML code for, say, the layout point of view. You can do a manipulation, but it's advisable if you want tomorrow to have a small application, say for that matter, if you want to build screens for, say, college management system, for example. So you have a student information, you have class information, then you have library information for that matter. So for every single department, you are creating a forms. So eventually, whichever is the common portion for that. So for example, if I want to insert something, okay, maybe I can prepare one of the PHP file. Okay, again, I'm trying to use here the object oriented concept, right? So what is the purpose of object oriented concept? You don't want to reinvent the wheel again and again. So if there is a wheel available, so that means if there is a function available, there is a procedure available, so or maybe a class is available, you have to derive that class and then you can use for your purpose only. So based on the parameters, based on the object of that class, you can use that, right? So again, you can write a PHP code in a simple procedural code like usually we are doing, or you can use an object oriented concept there, the reusability factor basically. So so this is login form, and for that we have a post or get methods by which whatever we have written here we can fetch that. And again, these are the headers. So if you see here login form, so this displays here, which is nothing but the header 2. So you are aware that okay, these are the headers h1, h2, h3. So if I put something in the h1, it will still show the on the little smaller font. If I put in the h3, it will show me in the bigger font. Then the label, so here these are the labels, username and the password. So this is nothing but the labels, username and password. But the most important thing is this name, right? So whenever we declare as a text box, because it's an input type, right? It's a text. That means it's a text box. So there are multiple ways. You have a drop down, you have option button, you have a checkbox. So based on what kind of input you want from a user, you have to define here. Then the name is very important. So based on that name, basically we are using for our programming purpose. Again, this is a placeholder, is nothing but what? It's a display there. So enter the name, right? So this is something, if you see at the background, enter the name, for example. So we just try to help user under the username what you want. But under the password, enter the password, right? So you whatever you can write here, it will display over there. So I've just created a simple form with the input text as a username, input text as a password, and one button, right? It's a command button, so you are well aware about that. So type is button is a type, and again name is important, and again login is something where it is displayed as a label there, right? So for that matter, so okay, so this is a simple form you can create with the different so okay, just maybe to extend this again, I just copy another this type. Maybe you are also well aware about this, but say I put here and I say zoom control plus, right? So again, this is the way you can decide, say, what the body color you want. Okay, so these are the common tags. There is nothing rocket science as such. These are the predefined, I would say, prototypes by HTML plus PHP here. So for example, this is a form, right? So for the form which I have developed here, so right, so width I've specified, background color basically. So this is a common property for any form here. So the star means what? So star is means for everything, for all. So whenever you write a SQL statement, right, select star from employee, select star from student. So if you have a say student table, you have student ID, roll number, name, date of birth, address, 10 fields, yeah, maybe 15 fields रहेंगे. So it will fetch you all the data for all the columns. So star means it's applicable for this entire page. So by default, everything is in the Times New Roman. So these all are Times New Roman, and border I put it as a box, right? So whichever are the borders I've created later on, all will be in the box as a border. Then it's a for the entire body, what's the background color, alignment, height, width. And again, for all the headers, if I say using any H small header, H2 header, H3 header, then what will the pixel size, what is the text alignment. So again, for the input box, so here if you see I just minimize that. But if you see whatever is here, for every object, say for example, this is the input box, this is the label, this is the button, this is the form. So for all these, we can set different properties. So for login form, say maybe I need a red color, but for the login, maybe I want say blue color, for example, and in the backend everything. So you need to define the properties for this individual I would say the objects on a very higher level. So button is one object, label is another object, then form is another object, headers are another object. So that way the site you can see here is visible to you, right? So that way you can configure your website. And again, all these are the static ones. So we can also create a website based on the runtime parameters as well. So these can be runtime. Will not go into the detail, but this is a fixed kind of a thing, static values. So you can define during your development or designing your website, and based on that, you can easily develop this or easily build this. If you see the interesting part, like okay, for example, now I have something called as localhost dbcon. So is one of the PHP program. So this localhost means what? Is nothing but your XAMPP installed location. So this is my localhost. So if you don't have XAMPP installed, you will not able to run anything in your standalone. So usually in the IT world, we have a different application server and different database server. It never be on a single system, but for the practice purpose, yes, we can have on a single machine. So it may be or maybe you are aware that okay, we have a local host where we have some port numbers. So that means that port indicates me you have the client application there, right? Okay, so I just cut it short. Don't confuse. I will also not confuse you. The local host is something when once you install XAMPP, this htdoc is your local host, and whatever is there. So if suppose I need to run something from set under test, say maybe action.php or test.php, then I need to write here localhost, then backslash, for example, test and something, right? So then that will point to that location. So this is our local host. And if I say right click here and view the page source, now you see, okay, again, maybe the font is little low, but I'll just try. Okay. So now you see, this is the code which I have written or which I've showcased you in the notepad. So taking a 1 minute break here. Why? Because you can go here and you see all the HTML, whatever you have written here, it shows you here, right? But this is dbcom. Okay, maybe what I will try to use another one. For example, this doesn't contain PHP. Okay, fine. Okay, so so this is nothing but what our dbcon PHP's actual code. अगर अगर कोई भी ऐसे राइट क्लिक करके व्यू सोर्स करके कोड देख रहा है तो what is this, right? So हाइड में कैसे कर सकता हूँ अगर मेरा कुछ लॉजिक में लिख रहा हूँ या something which I want not to showcase, or some calculations that I'm doing at the back end and putting that information stored into the database. So ये तो सारा सब दिख जाएगा, right? So whatever you're writing in the HTML, it's static, it's a fixed kind of stuff. But if you see here, for example, in that matter, so I've just copied here small portion of the PHP. Okay, for example, this one. So I write again in the different notepad for you. And again, paste it here. So if you see here, whatever we'll write under the PHP, so this is the starting and the ending like this, right? So whatever you have written here, it will never be shown when you right click and view source. So that's the key factor of a PHP. So if you see through HTML also, you can, create a pages, website. Yes, you can. But PHP is something where you can hide your business logic for that matter, or your calculations for that matter, or anything which you want to process based on the data, right? So for example, this is your form, for example. So this is simple form, but you have, say, maybe the good example is like, okay, you have an employee table where you are entering the employee detail and you want to calculate his salary based on some calculations, right? How many days he worked, how many days he is not here, some percentage calculation, falan, right? So based on that, so if you write everything in the HTML, it will simply showcase you here in the like view source here, right? So even for that matter, if I see here, if I go to Google, and again here I can write and view page, I can see this much. So by looking at this, nobody can understand what the Google site is here, right? But it's only for the static information, which can be kind of a read only. So you can use this, prepare look like a Google site, right? But you can't build the logic, the intelligence behind this. So for that, certainly we need coding, right? So we need software engineers. अगर ऐसे कॉपी पेस्ट करते रहेगा तो कोई भी anyone can go ahead and do the website रातों रात बना सकते. So that is not the case. So the whole point is the PHP is a strong contender candidate for the website development, for that matter, from the front end to back end calculation point of view, right? So whichever code you write in terms of a PHP, it will be hide from the user. Okay. So okay, so maybe so far so good. Okay, any question from anyone? anything would like to add, or guys all good? You all are with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, otherwise वो ऐसे रहेगा कि मैं अकेला ही जा रहा हूँ and everyone is वो ये समझ में नहीं है, वो समझ में नहीं है. So don't hesitate, right? So really, while working, because to be honest, I've worked PHP way behind where I've started my career. So, but PHP is a very strong kit, I would say, for the website development, because it's can be integrated easily with HTML, and HTML is very good scripting language, right? Hypertext markup language, HTML. So it's basically gives us a static as well as little kind of a dynamic information there. But the combination of HTML plus PHP will have a good website we can able to create, right? So that's the first part. Now moving to now the database part. So I think you all are aware about the DML operations, right? Insert, update, delete. So when you just let me migrate to that location. Sorry, let's move our forms are open here. Okay. So let's try. Okay. So basically, this is PHP my admin. Okay. Now, why this error comes up? Because I'm doing some sort of. Okay. So this is nothing but your MySQL, right? ये कहाँ से आ गया, right? You have a question. So whenever we install this, for example, or maybe XAMPP install होने के बाद, it will gives you the flavor of this, the connectivity. Okay. So I will share you maybe some sort of short videos via YouTube, because that will help you, because I completely understand that within this 1 or 2 hours of session you will not understood completely. So but I will try my best to simplify as much as possible. So basically this is but nothing but a database, and you can go ahead and create your own as well. So I created just test BBA, and I have one table into that where I have fields like, so here is a simple GUI kind of thing. So structure wise you can see which are the columns you have, what are the data types, if you want set a primary key, foreign key. So all the database activities you can do here. The SQL tab is there by which you can have select, if you want to insert, it will gives you the ready-made queries, because these queries will need to be part of a PHP program, right? So insert, export, so all the database activities you can perform from here, and it's a database only. So now what screen is not visible, right? So this font is, so I can increase this so that it's more interactive. Just give me a minute. I'll just try to search if I can able to increase the font from here. That will help you. Settings. Can't find anything here. Text editor. Search font. Yes. Okay. Perfect. So maybe I just use here a bigger one. Okay. And okay. Fine. Okay. Fine. Website is fine. is still short. Let's say 50. Okay. Okay. So look like okay, right? You can able to see. Okay. So first we discuss about designing a screen. So maybe what? Oh my God. So little bigger. I need to squeeze little bit. Fine. Okay, fine. Not an issue. Not an issue. So basically, this is a simple HTML file where, as I mentioned here, it's a simple GUI which you can see here. This login page, right? So now next one is what I try to connect this page with the database. So for that, I've written a small PHP code. So basically, the important thing is this line. So you define the server. So this is nothing but the variable. So $_ is the programming practices or programming standards you have to define in the PHP. So this is for server name, this is for username, this is for password, and this is database name. So always we have a local server, that's a local host. Username is the root, is the fixed for that. Password is blank always. And whichever the database you want to point out, you just simply copy paste from there and type here. So this is nothing. So these are the 4 parameters we need to establish a connection between the backend. Then after that, I try to build one connection string. So my SQL connection. So this is again the keyword from the SQL server, and the parameters are SQL server. That's what the server you want to connect. What's the username, password, and the name of the database. So these are the 4. This is optional one, but the remaining 3 are the mandatory ones. So by which we can able to say if there is something wrong. So if suppose I have say maybe rightly wrong, localhost something wrong, then it will gives me as an error. So I will try to showcase this to run this PHP as well. So this is the simple statement. Sorry, so someone is speaking. I think someone has unmute. Okay, fine. So this is your connection string MySQL _connect, and which have these 4 parameters. So what I'll try this now DB connection. So where is this DB connection? This is under XAMPP. So basically this is at this location, right? DB connection. This is my file. So I actually have a local host here. What I will do, I go here, I type localhost connection. Now it will throw me an error. Why? Because wait, maybe what I will here is already written. So here, if you see, dbcon.php, right? So this is the same file, db connection, n is absent, right? So here, maybe what I will put some of the code here because these are the additional ones I prepared for. So this is the way you can, comment the code, right? Multi-line comment. So fantastic. So I'll save this and again go to back to site. And I refreshed. Still it's not giving me echo because need this as well. Right? Oh, fantastic! Now it comes here, right? Finally, so 38 is showing. This is not needed, right? Because we have comment out this part. So let's just exchange this to here. I'm just trying to see whether this file is reading or not. It's reading now, and if I click here, it gives me the connection successful, right? So what I did, I passed this parameters, localhost root. So if I say maybe I remove this, so I wrongly written some server name here, saved, and I just refresh here. It's the same thing. Oh, right away. Server name saved. Yeah, fine. It's give me the error, right? Because he's trying to connect, but he's not able to identify which server to connect, right? So if I just simply change this, save this, and again refresh, it gives me the connection successful, right? So this is the basic step towards establishing a connect between the backend. So in the interest of time, I will show you one case for inserting the values. So for example, inserting the values of this login form into the database. Then you have assignments for, again, fetching the data from the backend. So basically what you all need to do, so basically we have DMS, right? So what I'm telling you right now is inserting the data into the table. If you want to fetch the data, you have a select statement. If you have an update, then you have update statement, delete statement, right? So what your assignments, so for example, like this form, you can prepare any form and you have command windows like insert, delete, update, for example, in case like login button, right? So you need all the validations for that as well. So again, I okay, so again, I will go by a little slow here. So first of all, what I'm showcasing here, you have to put username and password, and this login form, after clicking of login button, that information has been passed to this table, right? So if, for example, in the browse, if I say I have some predefined values, right? So I can go here, say for example, SQL or structure for that matter. So this is structure and this is browse. So okay, I go to switch to this. So I have uncommented something earlier. I can help you out here. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, this post, $post or $get, these are the variables used to fetch the values from the form, right? So what is this uname? This uname is nothing but I'm just scrolling here and there, right? So this is your username. So this, whenever you design a form, you have the name property, right? So this is very important. Okay, maybe what I will just try to showcase here. This is a little bit font. So you have this simple form, right? As we discussed earlier. So post is the method by which whatever the text box name. So this placeholder is for the label purpose, right? But this is something we need for our programming. So if the name is username, uname, or name equal to pwd, which nothing means this one. This is uname and this is pwd. Okay. So we'll use this, or maybe okay. So I'm just move back to this program, or maybe for that matter. So I'll just reduce this size because it's difficult for me as well to type something there. Font change is fine, I guess. Text editor, I guess I need to change this to change somewhere else. Just bear with me for a minute. Formatting is still okay. Fine. Text editor. So if I change this to look like okay. Change this to 10. This is no. Okay. Fine. Showing me a right way. Font. This one also space. Change somewhere else. Fine. Okay, so basically, as I mentioned earlier, this is the connection string, and this is something my parameters. And now just extend this code a little bit. Post gives me the value from the form, so I just keep this in the variables. For that matter, for the echo is something which can be displayed on the screen. This is a connection. connection successful, we really don't need. Okay, so maybe we need not this again because we have right there. Now we have this SQL statement, right? So what we are doing right now, we have designed a form like this. We have this two text boxes, these two labels, this page, and we have created this button. So once I click on the button, these two values will be pushed, inserted into the database where we have established this link. Okay. So this is a simple slash statement. So what usually I'm doing, I'm going to this location always and SQL statement, and I select the insert one, and then I use this copy paste, and because this username and password, these are the parameters, and the values where come from the post method, right? Because there is a syntax issues multiple times, because when I was earlier, insert statement looks like easy, but if you want to concatenate here, it's a little challenge number of times, right? So for example, if I write here, you see, so insert into student is the name of the table, username and password, these are the two fields, and values, this username and password is nothing but the variables I have chosen, right? It's very simple. Then I've written further one, so I've echoed this. I will not open this, but I know this. If the connection query SQL is true, that means this query which we have written is correctly formatted, correctly articulated, correctly understood by the table or by the database for that matter. You have successfully inserted the record. So I've just put some messages, otherwise it gives me error. And once the connection, I've done my operations, I will go ahead and close this connection. Okay. So this is fine. So I've just tried to run this and we'll see if there are errors or not, because font is a little bit higher, and again this dbcon is where it's again on the local host. So dbcon.php, sorry, I'm trying to learn from here. So yes, any question from anyone? You can maybe ask in meantime. That's something where it is, how it is running basically. I will not use this dbcon php, but dbcon. Okay, so it gives me an error on line 76. Something is missing. Okay, maybe I have to uncode this. Maybe one, it's too much. Okay. Give me a moment. Paste it here. Let's see. SQL Server is fine. Let's scroll down. Okay, this is fine. into this. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Echo SQL, the connection is there, then you have successfully inserted. Okay. We need to check whether this code has to be worked. Maybe con.php. Okay, I go here. Okay. Pause error enclosed. Okay, so still there is some issue. Line 7 to 6. Okay. System is there only. Body fine. So there are some brackets missing. I think that's the only problem here. Just checking quickly. I think this is missing. Okay. So before end of PHP, I guess I need maybe one more. That will help. Yeah. Okay. Now my DB connection PHP is open, right? So I'll write username as bad Friday, bad Saturday, because it's bad Saturday for you guys, right? On weekend you have to come here. And password is say 1234, for example. If I go to login now again, because I have purposely put some wrong things so that you can also encounter the errors as well, right? So now here see the bad Saturday and 1234 are the E codes from this file, right? So whenever we username and password, so we have this username and password, so these are the equals one, right? So this is comes here. Now it will shows that uncaught argument blah 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 on line number 26, right? So it expects exactly 2 arguments, but something is wrong. So if I go to line number 26, so I guess maybe this line is not needed at all. I just rebuild this. Now here, if you see the earlier message, right? If I say here, say maybe username is xyzz and password is 1234, login. Then you see here xyzz1234. I put explicitly, and you have successfully inserted. So where it is comes. So we have established this connection, and this query executes the true. That means the insert query is executed rightly. You will get this result. So if I switch back to okay, so message तो आ गया भाई, but सच्ची में record गया है कि नहीं, right? So I go to browse here, and I see what I put Yahoo. No, it's root. Oh, sorry, it's my mistake. Apology for that. Okay, so can you tell me? Okay, maybe you are not, because it's still not readable for me basically. So basically, what is happening here is I've used 2 times, right? So basically, this is not needed. But I would simply override this via these 2 parameters. So switch back to again here, login page, continue. Okay, then say 111111. It's not a valid username, but still for the safer site, I'm putting this value. login. You have successfully logged in. Then I go to the database here. I browse again, and then you see here the record 1111 is coming here, right? So by establishing the connection between the backend, we can able to insert record. So firstly, you need to create your own database, then own tables inside to that, like a student, library, class teacher, college teacher, anything, right? So, okay, here I'm taking a pause. So any questions from anyone? Either in the chat window or in unmute yourself.
No, sir.
सब समझ में आ गया सबको? तुरंत असाइनमेंट करेंगे ऑनलाइन? Is that okay for everyone? No, right? I know it's difficult because but what I try, I will share this again, as I mentioned earlier, like I will share this small programs, the simple database connectivity, right? For example, then how to insert the data into the tables, how we can fetch the information from the tables. After fetching, if you want to modify, then how you can do that, right? So, Swati ma'am, are you there? You around? Or who is the coordinator? Okay, so guys, because now insert, update, delete, all these are like in line with this only. Only you need to change the SQL. So what I need to give some assignments maybe later on, not now, because ऐसे तो नहीं चलेगा, right? कि मैं आपको ज्ञान दे रहा हूँ और आप आराम से उधर सुन रहे हो, वैसे तो नहीं चलेगा. So you have to work with me as well, right? So who is the coordinator for this, or is someone like a class monitor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So maybe what, because earlier I planned for further sessions, but maybe I will close in like in next 10 minutes. So maybe I will call Swati ma'am as well in parallel. But now this is something based on the request, right? How we can connect with the database and how we can do the manipulation. So what I need in terms of assignments, like, okay, you need to create a small page like this, or if you already created, maybe either it's a student or it's an employee, for that matter, you can do anything. And you need to do DML manipulations, right? So for example, insert I've just shown you. Then next one is the update. You want to write username here, right? Maybe a separate screen where password is not visible, but only username. And then you can fetch, or maybe for that matter, it's a student ID or name. And then click on that, all the data from the database will fetch here. So for that, you need to write a select statement. And then you have to modify it and save again back to the database. So all the DML manipulations you need to carry it out as an assignment. Insert I've shown you, and I will share you this clean code with ma'am, Swati ma'am, and then maybe that can be help you out. So insert, update, delete. If you want to delete, yes. How you can delete that? First, you need to find the record. and then click on the so there is a delete button where you can really write a delete statement in line, and first ask the user, are you sure you want to delete this record, and then delete from the table. Likewise, update. Search is fine. Search is simple select statement based on the criteria. So this is the small examples, small assignment you all need to carry out. So any other question, maybe for that matter, it's HTML or PHP or whatever the projects you are doing, you're facing any challenges or you want any additional information. So, and along with this, I will also share some of the YouTube channels where they have clearly mentioned step by step, because usually whenever I want to refer, I usually refer those videos, so that did not, and again, this PHP or HTML, you really need not to be, always be remembering, because there are a lot of tags, there are a lot of information available. So I just quickly check. So if you see, I've just, and today morning I've just found some of the videos which is really helpful. So I will share this information with you as well, so that it's handy for you. So for example, like a keywords, what kind of keywords we have in the PHP. So there is a separate YouTube site, or maybe you want to go to wiki, you can also find out that. Then how you can design a simple form. Are you guys about bootstrap programming? It's like PHP, or it's combination of these three, but okay, maybe we'll not jump there. Again, I find out something where is the SQL connectivity, how we can do that. So there are different ways, right? You can connect, but I just tried to showcase here the simplest way. So usually you need to build your web page. Again, web page in this like login screen via HTML, and you use your business logic in PHP, right? So for example, inserting a data. So you need to check. Now I don't have any validations at this moment. So if it's a blank, if I both the blanks and still I click on login, it will insert a blank data. So if you want, I can showcase you that as well. If I say login, you have successfully inserted, right? So this is not good. So if I go again to browse, if you see, this is the blank row is added here. So this is not the right way of programming. But yes, you can do that using the post and get methods. So for example, if the username, or maybe I will showcase it quickly, not an issue. If this username, so you have already gone through the if and else statement. So if the username, then you can do this SQL insert karo, connection query karo, successful record karo, उसके बाद अंदर जाओ ही मत, right? कनेक्शन भी क्लोज करो, कनेक्शन ओपन करने की जरूरत नहीं है, right? So if I say if not username, so it gives me the false. अगर या तुम सिंपल में ऐसे भी लिख सकते हो, username is not equal to blank, right? So what I will do else, write else here. This is else, right? Yeah. Else equal please provide username provide a username. Semicolon. So just go here and see this. So I use the same thing again. If I click here login, so it gives me please provide username. So likewise, you can do the use of if else, you can do that. So if it's because I'm not have any validation on the password, so you can have use a password of all the combination of uppercase, lowercase, special characters. So again, you can provide maybe a small text here what kind of combination of a password is. So this way you can easily interact with the tables and the databases. Okay, so open for everyone. So any question, any doubt? If not, then I will quickly revamp this in a next 5 minutes. Okay, so seems like you're all intelligent. You have all understood. So okay, I will quickly wrap again. So whenever you want to start the PHP, you need what? Maybe I'll try to showcase the presentation again. The prerequisites, right? So you need XAMPP is a development environment for us to develop a website PHP, and you have either any editor, so Visual Studio, Sublime Text, but I prefer this because this has some intelligence. And then so whenever you install this exam, that is your local host. Then you need to always, okay, so one point I just quickly, so whenever you file first, so if I close everything, first time you need first select an open folder. So open folder gives you where you want to point, because now I have this local host, but maybe inside that I have different applications. So you need to ensure that, so whichever the application, that means whichever the database you want, you have to create the folders accordingly, and you need to point that folder so that whichever the files, for example, I will show you here. Say maybe I create a new folder here. Say for example, the exam for that matter. Just for taken as an example, right? Okay. So I just select an exam as a folder. Then if I create say file new file, sorry, something's wrong. Okay. File. Now new file, it will, if I want to save this file, look at the intelligence. So it will give to that location. So you need not to be worried about where I have created this file, where it will be, because whenever you start practicing, you have a number of folders, number of files inside. So this editor helps you to point to the right folder, because that's one folder is your one application where you have all PHP and HTML files. Okay. So tell me anything. Okay, so I've stopped my sharing. So any questions, please let me know. So Zoya, can you reach out to Swati ma'am, please? Maybe I will check with her as well.
Yes, sure, sir.
Yeah. So in meantime, guys, please, and I think you have. So I think you have a combination of BC and MC, right? So maybe MC guys, the master stroke guys, maybe have a projects, or BCA guys, you have projects. Please do a small project in the PHP, the combination of HTML, so that gives you a good sense of how the scripting language is working, how we can easily develop the websites or web pages, and later on this will really help you to build the good applications. So that essentially is needed. Okay, what else? So maybe I'll quickly go through your syllabus in parallel, because ma'am shared that with me. Yes, the syllabus. So actually from the syllabus, we have covered MySQL, creating a database, how you can connect to the database, inserting a database. Now retrieving, reviewing is something, the assignments to you guys. And we also discuss about the front end, back end, how we can do that, the connection between the front end and back end via databases, how we can query that part we discuss, and how to disconnect the database also. So I think most of the part we have covered as part of this session. So again, if I give everything to you, then it's easy for you, but you need to do your hands dirty so that you can learn the things from your own mistakes. And what I advisable you to, like, maybe you can create a groups of like 1 or 2 or 3 of yours, and just try to build a small application. Maybe someone is working on user interface, someone is working on some main logic, someone is working on some validations, and then later on you 3 of us or 4 of us review each other's work and suggest and guide, because that way we always working on that. So Zoya, any luck to connect to Swati ma'am?
No, sir, actually, I couldn't reach her. I think she's in a meeting. So, should I proceed with the vote of thanks?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm so still, anyone has any question, concern, anything should I repeat again? And as a conclusion, certainly I will spare some more time where I can create some sample PHPs, a combination of HTML to you guys, and share across with Swati ma'am, so that this will help you to build a small applications. But certainly you can go ahead and do that. And if anything needed, please reach out to Swati ma'am again. Then maybe we'll have maybe half an hour, 1 hour session again to review what you did, or you have any further questions. But rest, I'm good, and I really looking you guys, and thanks all for participating. Today is Saturday, still around 47, close to 50 students attended. That's really great. Yeah, Zoya, it's over to you.
Thank you, sir. I, Zoya Siddiqui, on behalf of Bharati Vidyapeeth, deemed to be University Institute of Management and Entrepreneurship Development, would like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Avadhut Kulkarni, sir, for this wonderful session. Thank you, sir, for enlightening us on PHP, database connectivity with SQL Server. It was indeed a very informative session, and we have learned a lot from it. I would also like to thank Dean FMS BVDU and Director IMED, Dr. Sachin S. Virnekar, sir, for providing us with this great opportunity, and our faculty members for guiding and supporting us. Lastly, I thank all the students for their participation. Thank you so much all.
Thank you. Thank you, Zoya.
Okay.
Swati ma'am just joined, yeah.
Yes.
So, Swati ma'am, just to conclude, right, I have demonstrated all the students like how to connect with this MySQL database and how to insert the data. So
Okay.
what I promised them, like maybe I will share some of the PHP files, the good code.
Yes, that I
Maybe
have heard. I
yeah.
have attended whole session, Avadhut. I was there. I have
Okay.
attended. You have promised them to share some contents material with them.
Right. And
Okay.
but prior to that, I request them maybe they can have a group, maybe 2 or 3 people. They can start one theme, one application with one database server. And I
Okay.
also requested them to have some practice on other DML statements like fetching of a record from the database or maybe updating, deleting, because those are the similar lines what I've just mentioned them. So they need to practice because otherwise, without practice, it's difficult for them to understand the whole thing.
Yes, very true. Very true. So hopefully, student, you got insights from sir, and definitely it will be very much helpful during implementation, specifically in academic related projects. Okay. I know I don't worry about your theoretical things also. You are doing good, I know. But especially when you will represent IMED at industry level. So we are expecting that time you should show your spark in the coding specifically. So from that point of view, especially we are organizing such an expert session, and you got correct insights regarding that. So hopefully you will continue and fulfill our expectations from sir also. Sir has kept some expectations in front of you. So hope on behalf of students, Avadhut sir, I'll ensure you they will do practicals and they will keep continuing those things which you have guided them. So thank you for your acceptance and this wonderful session.
In addition, if maybe they want something to be maybe extension to this, just let us know. Maybe we'll reconnect again for some small session if they want any issues or queries regards with this. But firstly, I request everyone to do a dirty hands. Otherwise, it not help them out.
Yes, definitely. Very correct, sir. They should start practicing first. That is the first step. At this level, they are expecting the expectations, minimum expectations, like the things which are as a beginner they should able to do. At least those minimum expectations are there. They should do it in fine way. They need not to take support of internet or ready-made code for the basic things, at least, because right now they are not doing any coding, right? Anything rocket science and all, they are not doing it. That is not the expected also, but the basic should be very much clear from them. Okay. So thank you, sir. Thank you once again for this wonderful session. Hope from students, if anyone wants to share their views, the platform is open to all.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think any hand raises. I cannot see any hand raise. On Representative Zoya has shared her views and given vote of thanks. So I think we should stop here.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
ma'am.
So
And
once again, thank you.
yeah. Okay. All the best. All the best, guys. And keep coding. Keep rocking. That has something to say.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Bye.
Avadhut sir. Okay, bye
Bye.
bye.